going to call the meeting to order. This is a meeting of the Rules Committee at the Representative Town Meeting. There it is. And I ask your indulgence tonight. We're meeting at the same time as the Board of Selectmen. And two of our members need to be at the Board of Selectmen meeting in addition to being here. So Jack has to go up and contribute up there. So I would take 6 and 7 and move them up to after approving the minutes. And then Michael's going to be up there, Mike Wheeler, so he can go last, as I understand it, or we can put him last and be safe.
If you get to that point in the agenda, go ahead, because Patty and Lois have everything.
Well, you guys,
I'm just the backup.
they're at the top, that would be.
Yeah.
No, we're gonna sit at the
switch
end,
it
but
later.
I'm
Alright.
supposed to be there, but if it's
So Jack
not,
can make it.
we got
We
it.
can keep going. All right, fine. All right, so having called this meeting.
Oh my God, somebody is joining now.
Well, Rolf's joining.
Look, we've got a visitor, people. You've got good being. So let me just, can I do something? Sir?
Yeah, I'll call a meeting today. Can we just get the minutes approved for November 18? Can I have a motion, Frank? Second from Mr. Adelata. Okay, now, any comments, problems, issues, changes to the minutes? Okay, then we look like we're ready to vote. All in favor of approving the minutes for November 18? Okay, opposed, I see none. Abstentions, I see none. Minutes stand approved. Okay, now,
Can I make a comment?
yes, I recognize Lois to make a comment.
I want to thank Mike for putting together, see that camera up there, that's a webcam, and we have a remote contact, and Rolf is here watching our meeting. Oh, I know, I forgot to do something. But anyway, so we can do this now, and it works, and he can see what we're doing, and he can hear us, hopefully. And as soon as I fix something, I'm hoping, he probably has his sound off, or anyway. But we now have the ability to do a hybrid meeting. That's the way we're calling it. The preference I think, is for everybody to be at the meeting, but should you find yourself out of town or ill or something like that, we will have a link, a Zoom link, available for every our rules meeting, right?
Yes, we have sort of done this in the past, but having discussed with town council how we did it, he suggested strongly that we redo the way that we do these so that we follow FOIA rules. So we've been able to take our technology to another level, and as you can see, we're now able to do this according to Hoyle. I have done the agenda according to FOIA, so
Just to be clear,
we're ready
we
to
did
go.
ask that question back in the day, and town council did say we could do it. So it wasn't like we were doing it.
The procedure that we used was,
He's updating
was not
his
there, yeah.
feedback, but just to be clear.
Yeah, oh, my goodness.
Nice background.
I'm having a nice day at the beach.
Ralph, good to see you.
So there will be some
That's
technology
your point.
changes as we go through tonight, but we're
Yes,
on a roll.
very good. We tuned in our first guest, that's great, Ralph. So I'll go to item, you want to do scope first, Jack, or?
Yeah. Why don't
All
we
right,
do
so
it?
we'll
Let's
go to
Frank's
discuss
take.
and vote on distributing the RTM to the scope of the RTM and discuss the scope document which was sent out.
Okay, so we've sent out, we revised and updated the scope document with the understanding this is a living document. So like we know that at Park and Rec, come January, they're going to rename or reorchestrate their subcommittees of what they're going to do for the next year. So as soon as they do that, we'll update this document. But it's not really going to affect Park and Rec because you're already involved in that. In addition, we have had input from all of the committee chairs. And now on Public Works, they are also going and taking this document. Ralph has already sent it out to his committee members. And they're actually looking, not necessarily to see what they're already responsible for, it's what they believe they want to be secondary on. And I received input also from Amy Zavatakis that in looking at this, there were several areas that she thought that PZ&H should also be secondary. And on the document that we've sent out actually has Amy's on. Ralph has given permission to go. It's not going to affect the budget because anything Ralph wants to be secondary on, his committee's already going to know. So, and we'll send it out. But the key is that in January, we're going to start the Board of Selectmen budget, I believe on the 21st or something like that. And then in 3 days, they're going to cover it. But this also has budgetary impact for all the committees to say, this is the areas that you should be following, looking at, and other things like that. To the department chairs, because there's a lot here, and Ralph's there as well. And the only other one is Liza, who is just education, so she already knows that Peter and Beth are their main contacts on that. We will be setting up what used to be called the buddy system. So at Wednesday's meeting, we'll be assigning people from F&B to the various categories. It'll be sent out to each of the committee chairs to say, you know, who's your cohorts with it. And then Jim Palin at his next meeting will add what his distribution is, and we'll make that public for everyone. So this is, as I said, that's why it says effective the 31st. And it's really, there's two things to it. One is the budget. The other thing is that if somebody's joining and, you know, somebody says, you know, I'm really interested in 5 Mile River, that then they know that there's something that they can file there. Or somebody, there's currently there is a group that was a advisory group on pickleball. So if those are interested in pickleball, they can look and see what's going on in that. So it's to encourage RTM members to get involved in those areas that are of interest to them, which hopefully will, as you're going to talk about later in some of the feedback, will hopefully encourage people to stay involved with what we're doing. So that's the first thing. So what I'm asking for, first, if there's any comments or discussion on this that anybody wants to make.
I did have a thought on Park and Rec, sorry.
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
should have told you earlier, but as I was going back through some budget stuff, I saw that the Harbor Master had some funds assigned to it in one of the budgets in the last couple of years, so maybe that'll be on the list.
Okay, I'll add the Harbor Master. That's real quick. I can do it here.
And I just have one quick question. Jack, this is phenomenal. This is a huge amount of work, so thank you. And I know you said it's a living document, but could there also be a point when a committee that's not secondary, we as rules, if something comes up, we then assign them secondary? Can it be living that we make changes if need be? I was thinking of something to do with coastal waters, public health and safety may, well, I don't know what it could be.
I'm going to give you the perfect answer to that. If it's a bonding and we're buying some land or something and there's some bonding or some other major things going on, in theory, F&B is primary. However, and you saw this on the circle for Great Island, Amy has to be primary on that because Amy can explain it better than I can, because all I'm going to deal with, or F&B is going to deal with, is the financials. So to understand what the totality is and have somebody who can actually speak in English on what they're doing and answer questions on that, in that particular case, PZ&H would be primary, even though currently on land acquisition, F&B is listed as primary. But on certain of these things, when we've come here, we've just said, this belongs to, you know, Amy is better to explain this than F&B is.
This is a guide.
Yep. Okay,
The Rules Committee assigns the
Yeah.
committees.
So, yes, I fully agree with you. There's
Okay.
certain times where we're gonna switch back and forth, but it's important that both, or 2 or 3 are all listed.
Yep.
And then they can sort of figure it out which one really should be on that. I agree with you. So, if we can, what I'd like to do is distribute this to all RTM members. And so, if we can have a motion to distribute this document with the correction that I have here to the RTM, and depending upon when the distribution date is, Ralph, can you speak?
He's not there anymore.
Oh,
He left.
all right.
You're bored.
All right, so I believe Rolf
works.
is,
That's all.
I believe Rolf is having his meeting either Thursday. Okay.
I'm meeting on Thursday.
Okay.
Oh, he's back.
Ralph is alive.
So we'll take in, if we distribute it, Rolf will let me know anything that's going on there, and we'll add anything that they believe they should be secondary to this. We also, if you've noticed, we put on that there's a sidewalk potential committee. We don't know how it's going to be orchestrated, but we just put it on, just knowing that something may be coming up.
So Jack, who's the keeper of this document going forward? I understand it's a place to start and it's a living document, somebody said over here.
That wasn't part of the motion. Right now, TGS&A is.
yeah, that makes sense.
Yep.
That
Yeah.
definitely makes sense.
Now, I'll help because, I see things coming up, but in reality, it belongs to TGS&A.
And isn't the intention to update it for every new session of the RTM and send it out?
Well, hopefully we have it updated on that, but the real responsibility ends up, and we can figure out the rules and how to make it up in procedures. The rules are all committee chairs should be providing information to Seth and Seth and Frank rather, if something new comes up. So then it gets into the document. So if we have multiple inputs, because they're watching things all the time, that comes up. And, Seth may also be one of the inputs simply because you go to the OPC meeting and there's discussions of new things that go on there.
Yeah.
So between that, but the keeper should be TGS&A.
I would say when this thing settles down, that it would be one of the standard documents that could be posted on the webpage.
Yes, that was my concern, is
Just
how,
like
our question is how
our
would the
committees
public
and
have
that
it?
kind of thing.
Absolutely.
Right.
Happy to put on the website.
But it's not going into the ordinance because it changes too often.
Yeah, no, let's
So,
keep it on the website.
Seth, can you ask for a motion to distribute?
I will request a motion.
So make a motion.
And I have a second from Jack, yes. All right, a motion from Jack. Yes, Patty?
Oh, I'll make the motion, is what I said.
Oh,
Yeah.
Sorry.
Patty's
Yeah.
gonna do it. All right, a second. Jack, Lois seconded. All right, so just to review the motion, it's that
After Public Works meets and decides what their secondaries are, that this be distributed to, it'll be updated and distributed to all RTM members. And whether or not it goes on the website,
That could be later.
yeah, we can deal with that later.
all right.
Well, it needs to be a public document somehow.
Yeah,
so how-
oh, no, it has to be on the website, I think. Yeah, I mean, just for every conceivable reason, it just gets it out,
Yeah.
people can see it.
Right.
Great, I will, well, first of all, I think we're then, further comment? Ready to vote? All those in favor, please? Opposed? I see none. Great, and
Thank you all
abstentions,
for
I
working
see
on
none.
that.
Thanks.
So
So,
beautiful work,
Yeah.
that's a lot of effort, and I think it's great. I will put this topic on the next agenda, so that if we have input after we distribute it, that we can record that and include it in the document.
the other thing is, the next part is Appendix B. Beth Pope made a suggestion that we set it up similar to how when I'm doing legal contracts, you see here's old and here's new one side, and you're comparing.
Red line?
Not red lines, this is proposed new,
Okay.
is over on the right, and here's what the prior one was, and so they match up so you can see the differences on it. And so, with my limited skills to do that, which means there's a couple of spacing going on, we do have that document, and we've already started some preliminary meetings with some people who had previously made comments, and at the next TGS&A meeting, we're going to have our initial going through the Appendix B document, and ultimately the goal is in February to meet with all of the committees like we did before, with everyone having the document ahead of time. But we're going to try and maintain kind of strict control of the document so we don't have 37 versions floating around. So, because that always ends up being confusing. But it's still not ready for prime time because there were a lot of comments that we had from the last go-round that we haven't had the opportunity to talk about and get them in. So I know that Jim Cameron gave us some wordsmithing, and they're going to be put into the document. And so, but we'll keep you abreast of that.
And is that going to include Part 8, Section 4?
No.
No, okay.
Seth, can I just ask a question?
Yes.
So Jack, if someone has a suggestion of a change, who's going to determine whether that suggestion goes in or not?
Initially Frank and myself, and then TGS&A.
And so
ultimately,
on what basis are you and Frank, do you guys have like some kind of matrix to decide whether it should or shouldn't go in?
No.
So it's subjective.
Yes.
So will Rule C, I guess,
Well, that goes to the purpose of a draft. It
Right.
is a draft, and people want to comment on it, and it can be.
but will someone other than the two of you, who I know have done an extreme amount of work on this, will someone else see the suggestions?
Everybody will see it.
Oh, okay.
We could do it, but like anything else, I mean, I know that there's been suggestions made that in conversation even with Seth, because there's a couple that we brought to Seth's attention and said, we've decided we weren't going to put this in. It's good guidance, we just don't want it in an ordinance because that has different implications to it, and to which Seth agreed. And, that if people want to make suggestions and that were not accepted on the floor of the RTM in the night that we're doing this, be my guest.
But there's gonna be committee reviews before that.
Well,
it's
So
gonna
those
come
suggestions
through
can come
rules
up in
anyway.
committees.
But just in case somebody says, well, I really feel strongly on this, all right, and so I still want it in, you'll have the opportunity, the person will have the opportunity on the floor of the RTM.
Well, but I think it's important, I want to make this point, I think it's important that people see the suggestions. I get that it can be a little cumbersome, but, we have a lot of RTM members who have past board experience. I mean, Joe Michelli, you've been on Board of Ed, you've been on a lot of different boards, you're on TGSA now. We have people that have been on a lot of different subcommittees, so I think it's important if someone has a suggestion that it's not left up to a small group as to whether it's on or off. That's my point. I mean,
Well, that's
Every single
your opinion.
suggestion, I mean, I think that it's kind of unworkable, cumbersome.
but I guess
And they
then
can
we
see
need,
each draft, and if they like the draft or not.
At
they
some
can-
point, some small group's gonna have to make a final determination.
so then maybe there has to be some kind of matrix set up as to what are you basing your decision on? That's, I'm
There's a
not,
role for the committees, the committee review, which Jack described, which are told us. And certainly the reason within the committee is,
So
someone
that-
comes up, we always use the incinerator as an example. The current text has public works in charge of an incinerator.
yeah.
Okay, just use that as an example. If that comes up in the meeting as a good, earnest suggestion, as you comment, I'm sure it will be discussed in that committee and we would say, well, gee, we don't have an incinerator anymore, so let's cross that out.
We
And
actually.
that would be recorded on 79.
Okay, that's
And a
what-
public document.
Well,
Okay.
and quite honestly, when we did the first round of it, and I remember, because it was funny that we had three things down there on the committee's descriptions, I'm not gonna go through what they were. And Rachel Taylor made a suggestion, and as she was making the suggestion, Frank and I looked at Rachel and said, yes, you're right, and we wrote it in. So right then, and Rachel laughed a little bit, but that's how this was, because the document that we're working with really have gone through all the committees, and we've had things, and every one of those committees were recorded. So, but, you know, if we want to maintain that record, the goal is to have this out by March. And so, you know, we can make it cumbersome and we're back to September again.
Well, I'm not trying to do that. As long as it's discussed in TGS, and as long as it's discussed in public, what suggestions were made, and, you know, a conversation takes place. It's really to protect the two of you as much as anything else.
I'm not worried about protecting.
Well, it's public. It's a public I mean, it's
I
public
understand.
input, and I think it's important that
That's
we
how
have public
That's how we
meetings.
proceeded last time
That's how we're
around.
doing it,
And in
and
fact,
quite
what we're
honestly-
doing, what is on the table right now is in fine tuning that people come up with.
I would
Further-
further, excuse me, but I would point this out. This will ultimately come to the Rules Committee as well. And I have every confidence that everything that gets on there will have been vetted and looked at by a whole bunch of people. It just is in, I don't care whether you thought you were gonna do it in this environment. It's, you know, whatever's has been proposed will get out and be on the table, I am certain.
And at the end, while we're starting again at TGS&A, anything including the suggestions that you're talking about are gonna come back to TGS&A.
And we only have a
Because
couple of,
they own this. At the end of the day, I'm helping because there's a lot of areas that TGS&A doesn't come across. And I do on my daily unpaid job. And so, but at the end of the day, they own it.
Thanks, Joe.
That's two, Frank.
Moving on.
Yeah,
did I
so,
see a grenade going? All right, good.
I like
we-
that. Stick 'em.
Thank you for the report. I think we have an idea where it's going. And I will keep this on the agenda of the Rules Committee so that we can continue to have fun with it. Thanks. What, are you ready?
I don't know.
All right, well, I think I'm ready. Let's have a report from the Rules Technology Committee.
Oh, no, those were waiting. We're going to do the committee's
You want-
assignments first.
Oh, you want to do committee assignments first? All
On the
right.
hope that Mike will be back.
All right, all right.
What about the other items in appendix B?
Hey, did you guys decide your committee assignments?
Yes.
That's to be done. They're gonna do this first, yeah.
There's something too.
Yeah.
They will have-
Yeah. No, it ain't going anywhere.
Sorry,
It's gonna be, it's be here until it gets done.
Is that being discussed tonight?
It will be.
I see.
Okay, I just didn't
I
know
went
that was
back,
on the
checked.
agenda.
Well, no,
And so everybody got it.
So that's- you're gonna go back?
no, I went back to him
Well,
and
it's,
said, you know,
unless there's email
he's
correct,
here.
I don't know.
He has, they're gonna do this first
It's okay because,
on the committee description, get that done, and then move on to the next.
and Joseph said, where.
So will this be discussed at tonight's meeting?
Thank you.
Well,
Next year, they will.
yeah, I just brought it up and they're not ready to move forward on it yet.
Okay, this is the spreadsheet for the committee assignments. District 1 and District 2 have no new changes, so I'm going to move down so we can see just the districts. And you will note that this row up here shows you the number of people on each committee, based on. We've put in the recommendations of the rules members for each of those committees. So I'm just going to move down so that you can see 6, because we're going to really be voting on the changes for districts 3, 4, and 3, 4, and 6. 1, 2, and 5 we've assigned previously, okay? And the people that are new members are the ones in yellow. Oh, good, good to see you.
So Lois, are you gonna have them take us through why
Yeah.
those committees were
Yeah, so who,
recommended?
District 3?
By those reps?
And Jack's not here, but I thought that Walker was assigned to public health and safety.
Okay, whatever you say.
Not,
Okay.
oh, you here, okay.
Who was the,
Did Jack say,
I'll look at your email.
okay.
So I made the misread.
And we can just move it, that's why we're doing this, okay? Do you want to tell us, is there any logic or any discussion you want to put on why?
Oh, let me look.
You don't have anyone on
Because
TGSNA?
I think it was top choice, if I'm, no, or maybe second. I didn't write them all down on this piece of
That's
paper.
what you're saying.
Did I write the wrong thing down? I think I wrote the wrong thing down.
District.
Okay, okay.
District 4 accurately is accurate up there.
It's easy to change. You could
Okay, let's change it, thanks.
What do you want?
Just wrote it down wrong.
So that'll be
Walker,
new
where do you want?
printout?
Yeah, there's no printout yet.
Public health and
There will
safety.
be eventually.
Okay. So. So you have 3 open seats in District 3.
We do.
Okay, so I assume that you'll put people in TGSNA?
Yes, we will.
Okay. So that's.
The rest of it is for what they asked for. Ron asked for Parks and Rec, and then second choice was Public Works. So that's why he's on Public Works. Torres, first choice was PZNH, and we need that. So she's there. And Walker, I believe, is supposed to be on Public Health and Safety. If I've messed it up, I
Could you speak up just a bit? Could you
Right.
speak up just a bit?
Sure, I think it's right now.
Okay, so that's District 3?
That's District 3.
Okay.
Can I just ask the question? Like, we
Please.
tried to really balance ours out, and I get that you guys are filling these other spots, so I really appreciate that. But there was, somebody that didn't get on the committee that they wanted for our district because we wanted to balance it out. So I just don't know, like, did that person
We've got 3 more
have
people.
a heavy, like a strong background in public works, or was there a compelling reason?
It was for requests, and we gave them as high what they asked for as we could. And because nobody asked for TGSNA, that's why we didn't put one of them on there.
I understand the logic of that. I mean, or
I get it, don't shoot the messenger, guys, but that's what we decided. We got 3 more slots to fill.
Right, but you would just hear me out though, Adele. I think what happens, and I'm not pointing the finger at you because other districts have done this too,
Gotcha.
but it's an observation that when we do that, to say, well, no one picked X, so we put them in there and left it open because we have other seats open. That means we're basically comfortable with saying anyone we recruit now is going to get stuck with what's left, as opposed to distribute the pain a little bit more.
Or their expertise.
I'm not saying it should change direction, but I've heard that discussion a couple of times and I've never commented on it, but I've decided I was gonna comment on it now.
Okay.
That it means we're putting all of the weight on, anyone that comes in now has no choice whatsoever.
Somebody that's been here a while, why should they get on something they don't want then?
I'm not saying someone else that's been here, I wouldn't do that.
Well, that's,
No,
yeah,
these are all, those are 3 new people.
Brand new people.
Those are
I know,
3 new people.
I understand
Yeah.
that. But they all can't have, say, everybody wants to be on education, they all can't be there.
No, but that's not my point. My point is that if there are seats to fill, again, using this example, which is TGSNA, what we're saying is that we're gonna take we have 6 new people.
Yes.
3 that are coming on today, 3 that will hopefully come on soon. We're saying that those 3 people get no choice whatsoever, but these 3 people do get choices. And so, just an observation, we can still go ahead with it.
How would you solve it then?
How would I solve it?
Yeah.
I would put somebody on TGSNA now.
I mean, that's what we did in
I would
District
distribute it more,
1.
but that's just an opinion, it's not a rule. I'm just
And they
voicing
would be
I'm voicing my perspective.
And in this example, they would be unhappy.
Yes.
They might be.
I don't want any unhappy people on the
Well,
committee.
you may get them,
Yeah.
because those people have zero choice.
We have a few people, but they're all good and they're all happy, so.
And they
That's what
signed
they
up
tell you.
before the other,
Yeah.
they
Well, I would
signed up
just-
before the other three.
I get it, I will repeat the story about me writing down the 5 committees that I requested, I got none of them. I ended up on TGSNA, I learned so much, and I continued to stay on it for a while, until I then switched to Public Works, stayed on that for a long time, then switched to Parks and Rec, I stayed on. So there's benefits sometimes
I mean,
to
just the
really
perspective.
coming in and understanding how the process works. So that was just my feedback. Are there 3 other people in the queue, or do you know?
No, they're not.
I know.
Anybody that knows anybody in District 3, let us
I
know.
mean, that's, I guess, another reason to not leave one committee blank.
I hear you, I hear you.
But again, I'm not objecting, Adele, you and Jack made a decision, I'll support it. I'm just giving just a broader perspective. You just happen to be the victim on screen right now.
Do you want me to do that?
I am, and I already screwed up once, so.
I got a problem.
Well, and my only comment is that we've just discussed that TGSNA is going to have a lot of work between now and March. I get your point, Frank, you want people on there that really want to do the work. I think also Patty made a good point. I don't think people understand what TGSNA is all the time until you actually get on there. So, again, I will support whatever the district chairs, district reps want, but look at all the yellow that we have, and we're putting 1 person on TGSNA. We have 3 people from districts on other committees. That's my only point. I think if we don't want to move anyone from 3, I think we might want to move, one of the other yellow people onto, whether it's District 6, they only have 1 person. I think we're doing injustice to TGSNA with only 10 people, and the other committees have.
I would agree, and I guess my only comment to that, what you said, Susan, was, it would seem to me, if we think it's important to put somebody there, and I could definitely see your perspective on that. Then, if I were District 6, I would say, well, why are you having us do it? We already have someone there, and you're supporting District 3
Good point.
doing nothing. So if we're gonna take that position, I think it weakens the other discussion.
Good point.
All right, District 3, ready to vote?
We usually do the whole
Are you
board.
wanna
Let's
do
usually
them all?
do the whole
Yeah,
board
do them
before we.
All right, District 4,
We have 5 people caucused in, and we recommend that Morgan Whittier and Jennifer Klein be on PZ&H. The chart is accurate, I'm just reading into the chart. And that new members Per Sexa and Dan Noble be on F&B. And that Dan Coonan be on Education. And that takes all 5. District 4 has 1 more position to be caucused in, and a meeting of D4 will probably take place in the next week.
Doesn't show an open seat.
I know, it doesn't show an
Am I
open seat.
misreading it, Frank?
Yeah.
Krista, is that right?
I think we're, Christie, you have to help me, I think we're entitled to 16, and we have 15.
I'm not sure, you'd have to talk to your district chair, or that's
It's
something.
showing
Yeah,
16.
I counted them this afternoon, so.
Then
1,
I
2,
would
3,
put it-
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
It's right.
So I would at least put a 1 in the open box.
There are-
2, 4.
And
If you
We
go
missing
across District 4, there are 15 names there out of
14,
16.
15,
So there's
16. It
one
shows
open.
16
One
names
open.
up there unless we've missed something.
Yeah, there's 16 names up there. There's 16,
Well,
if you count them.
then we need to get it straightened out.
Well, do you have?
In your phone.
There are 16 names on there, which would suggest you don't have any open seats.
But you do have an open seat, so I don't know what's wrong.
Well, how do we know they have an open seat?
Yeah.
Was the seat added
Somebody
because of the
resigned.
population shift?
Did somebody resign recently and they're up there?
Yeah.
There's
Yes, that's it.
Castles.
Christine Castles
Christine
needs to be,
Okay, got it, thank you.
so now we're,
Oh, yeah, she was in,
Yes, she's in public.
Mystery solved.
she was in,
Okay, we got it. Thank you.
The speed of electronics. That's very good. Okay, further comments?
Seems pretty well balanced. And just question, I mean, I like the balancing on it, but were those all people's first or second choices, Frank?
Yes.
Yeah, then that works
Great.
nicely.
All right, District 6.
Well, we have 4 people caucusing. Michael, and I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name. Michael has a,
Can you use the last name, because that's what I have up
I know,
here?
I know, I'm.
Q? Is it the Q?
Michael Q,
Okay,
I
good.
don't want to mispronounce his name.
Hey, Quajero.
He has a background in finance and project management, budget and project management, so.
Pretty light guy, huh?
Be a
Great.
natural fit for
Lango.
finance and budget.
Health.
And Laura Edelman is, her second choice is planning and zoning. And
What was her first choice?
education, education. And both, oh darn it, Ms. Duarte and Jeanette Duarte and Joseph Bartning said they could go wherever they wanted to. And we did not put both of them on TGNSA because they are from the same household and thought that would be, be good for galactic peace.
This is the married couple district?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
It
exactly.
is.
You didn't get Karen on?
If you can get it.
Further comment? Okay, we ready to vote on the package? I have a motion, please, to approve the assignments as discussed. Thank you, Peter. A second? Joe, there you go, Joe. All in favor, please? Okay, opposed? I see none. No abstentions. Motion carries. Assignments are
Susan has a
approved.
Can I make a suggestion, Seth?
Yes.
I don't know if it would be your job or whose job, but with districts, I know District 5 will be caucusing, with open districts, I think it's important that when people interview, when they caucus, they're told by their district that they may not get their first or second or even third choice on committees. I think it's important that you tell that to people up
We've
front.
always done it.
Very accurate.
I think all of us have the scars of that, so I can.
That's built into our process.
Perfect. I just wanted to say it in public because it may not be built in.
That's great.
Everyone may not.
100% agree, Susan.
That way, the expectations
I'll get a
are
note out to all the,
perfect.
That way they get their first choice.
I'm sorry?
That way they get their first choice.
She was the planning,
okay. Next, we'll go on to ready as a technology committee?
Whichever one you want to do.
All right, so we'll do the report on the technology committee next.
Okay, so that, as you can see, we have our technology, thank you, Mike, which seems to be working, so that's a huge step forward. We're continuing to do some work with the auditorium on documenting how to use some of the equipment or assisting, and as the town administrators want to include us, we're trying to make sure that the auditorium is covered so we know what to do. We've been doing a helping hand on whenever the RTM is involved, but they're still in the learning stages of working with all the equipment that the town has so wonderfully supported. And we do, I think everybody noticed that.
It works.
Yeah, and we have closed captioning now. But it does mean that people who are doing slides are going to have to allow for the closed captioning space on the bottom. So we will try, we're in the documenting stage, we're in the finalizing and documenting stage to try and pull all that stuff together. And it's pretty exciting when we finally can get that done. Sort of like getting some of the Appendix B out one of these days, you'll really be celebrating. And I understand, because that's the way the auditorium has been, so this is like-minded. So the discussion for tonight is something I mentioned that we've talked about, that there's some issues on information, the historical information and its availability to us. just as a brief overview, and the way I'm looking at it is that this is like a three-step process. One is to identify what we think we need. Secondly, to see if we need to get it, how could we get it now? And third, to say if that doesn't work and we want to do things more electronically or in other ways, that what are the opportunities there? So the purpose of tonight's discussion is to say, what information would we like to have if it was accessible? And what's brought this up is we were doing something on dog leash and found out through AI that it was in 2010, through an article in the Darien Times, that's when it was. And then we can go back, and we went back in and then started looking at some information. Krista's been very helpful in accessing stuff. I don't want to go into a long discussion of who has what, where, why, but what I want to think about is for everybody, what kinds of information do you want? The Board of Ed has like 10 years of information that's available on the web. Our stuff is just 2 years right now, okay? Our stuff meaning the RTM and other town departments. Well, 2 to 3 years, it's 20, whatever, 22, 23, 24, and now 25.
Want to clarify, do you mean minutes and agendas when you're saying?
Minutes and agendas, but there's probably other information. What I'm trying to get at now, your reports or whatever, is what kind of, the work that we're doing as we research issues and think about things, what kind of information are we looking for so that we can say, okay, Len, let's go see, then the step 2 would say, okay, if we want that, how do we have to do it? And third, is there a better way? So that's sort of, and why we're bringing it up to this committee is like, we do a lot of stuff. And so I'm curious, frustrations, access, what you've gone to, have you found it? If you haven't done it in the last 2 years, you had the old website and a lot of information was up there. They didn't transfer a lot of information when they updated the website.
I mean, outside minutes.
Minutes, agendas,
Yeah.
and other kinds of, what else?
Well, as part of the minutes and agendas, wouldn't we include the packages that go with those minutes
Yes.
and agendas? That's something that,
But those may be harder to find.
We're not,
Oh.
we're not going there. We're going, what would you like?
Oh,
And then
okay.
we'll,
Got it. No, yeah, I mean, minutes aren't good unless they have the full package.
I appreciate, Lois, the way you laid it out as 1, 2, 3, but a prequel to that
okay.
is a question of what was on our system before the conversion? Just a general description of the data that we used to be able to research. Because I would probably give a irreverent answer, is we just want anything that was alright because it was in media of some sort. We did have access to it.
We don't.
So at least, where did that data go?
It disappeared.
It was a,
Oh,
so
no.
the
No, it's
town-
available, go ahead, Chris.
I'm gonna say just so the town, you may or not know, changed website hosts. So in the transfer of the old website to Civics Plus, which is the new website, not all of the historical minutes and agendas transferred over.
I understand, that is the problem.
That is the fact.
The
of where
question
you are now.
is, where's the tape from the old system? The backup, anything that was
Frank,
on the old system.
that doesn't, it's not, you can just transfer it. It's not there right now. They got rid of it.
Okay, well,
The information is residing, don't go there.
I just, as an old data processing guy,
Frank,
I just can't believe,
I can't either, but that's what I've been told.
well, that's indictable. That was that's
Okay,
an
no,
asset.
let's
that we
just-
had.
Krista,
I just want to add one thing, just for the record. All the physical minutes and agendas
Yeah.
must be kept indefinitely per statute. So I don't want people
Right.
hearing this thinking this is all gone. Everything physically, of course, is in the town clerk's office.
But could
Just-
we,
that doesn't mean it's,
could we deconstruct who the vendor was, who supervised
Frank,
it?
that's solving,
What?
that's step part 3, or, yeah, we have to figure out what we need to
Okay,
do.
well, you asked what we would like.
Yeah, that's what
I
I
don't answer the question, I'd like to have what we had.
That's a good answer. That's perfect.
Nobody has to scan it, nobody has to manually, they
what
probably do
is
have
it
to
that you
manually
have?
index it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Anyway, okay, so
the
we have,
vendor's gotta have it, somebody's gotta have a backup tape somewhere.
Frank,
I can't ask that question?
no, I guess
No.
not.
Is it a legal question? Has
no,
somebody-
it's not a legal question. It's a frustrating question,
I
and you're
know.
hitting my raw nerves about this process, so
and I'm in the
let's.
middle of the two of you.
Anyway, I totally agree with what you're saying. It is not easily available on a tape that can be loaded. So therefore, we're gonna figure out what we want, figure out where it is, and what we need to do to get it
So,
there.
and the implication is that Krista and company have to scan that stuff? to
We
put it back
don't
up?
know until we, I don't.
No, I mean, if it doesn't, it's not immediate, we
I
can't
can't
find it
speak
immediately.
for
We can't,
I
prior
think
to
that
arriving
process-
where these documents were
I'd be
saved.
embarrassed
I
to
do
ask
not
for
know.
all minutes of all committees. I mean, that is just, yeah, it's an overwhelming job. So I'm just asking for it.
Having sold a few systems here and there, my guess is that if the head of IT doesn't know where it is, that's a serious problem. But that's the first place I would go.
it's not easily.
Because Krista is not the person who handled the systems. The person who handled the systems is the person who changed from one system to the other.
Can I ask the
Or
question?
group, whatever it was.
Did the Board of Ed has it, so did they pay for it? And a decision was made by somebody not to pay for it for the RTM?
They have a different website. They're not on the same platform.
Is it
Completely
done by
It goes to
Civics Plus?
No.
No, the Board of Ed didn't transfer. They weren't part
They
of
have
it.
10 years of
They're not
data.
speaking.
No, but they weren't part of this transfer. Board of
They're
Ed was
not- they're
always
not on
separate on their
Civics
own. Yeah, it's
They're
always,
not?
That's only the
All
town.
right, thank you. for
yeah, it's just the
confirming.
town. Board of Ed was not involved in any of this.
So can we go back to someone suggested minutes and agendas?
And package.
And package, is it
Yes.
good to say 10 years back? I mean, let's put up, you're looking for information, if we go 10 years, can we come up with a reason why we would need more than 10 years?
Paper needs to be scanned and.
Can okay, so to that point, for example, if somebody comes into a Parks and Rec committee meeting and does a presentation, right? And is that something, or had done it, is that something that can be requested?
So there's
Because it's-
additional information that, thank you Patty, because, and Mike, you can comment on this, is there is a historical material, the videos. Channel 79 has the videos recorded, and some of the stuff that Channel 79 doesn't have, or it's older than what Channel 79 has currently, and I don't know if you know.
So
the-
it's, for the last 15 years, the last 5 years are on demand. Everything before is in the library as the gatekeeper. When we went digital, everything, we back it up, but we don't send DVDs anymore to the library for the last 5 years. But prior to that, every DVD of every meeting is in the library. What Lois and I, when we were looking for the leash, we just did a search on Open GPT, and the article came up for the date and what was discussed, so you could go back to the records to then find the minutes and the package that was that meeting. And one of the experiences I had when digital came in at NBC and ABC, and we talked about, well, we're going to digitize all of our assets. No, we're going to digitize the Kennedy assassination, the key 99% of the
Historical
requests are 10%, 1% of the events. So it's interesting to see how many searches come up that people can't find. And since we've been studying this, no one's come and said, geez, where can we find details of that meeting? I'm not saying don't fix it, but
Well, my experience.
it's a lot of effort if we're never going to find
I'll
it.
speak with experience with data, and that is that you don't know what you want until
need
you want it.
Right.
Then we're trying to just stimulate, just ask the question for as much
No,
information as we can get right now.
You know, you've covered, that's quite a broad spectrum, I think. I mean, when you start talking about the packages and all of it, that's a lot. And now the question is, all right, now you gotta go back and ask, say, okay, where is it? Yes.
Just speaking on historical data from the committees, from my time in this role, the packet is rarely if ever provided. Rarely if ever. That information was never given to the town clerk. Agendas were, minutes were. I do not see I see packets for the RTM meeting,
Board selected together.
packets for Board of Selectmen. I do not see packets for your respective individual committees. So therefore, those are not archived.
Well, I
And
think
that-
the packets we're talking about are packets for the RTM meeting.
Okay, I just want to clarify to what body are we referring? RTM packets, I started doing that a little bit more than I remember seeing in the past, trying to make sure all the packets were scanned and archived on the website now, but maybe you want to clarify committees and RTM.
Did that maybe coincide, Krista, with when we started distributing electronically?
That is just my own experience from Board of Ed and Board of Selectmen. I think we should have the full packet because it's not doing justice to the public just to read agenda without supporting documentation.
Agreed.
So that was just more my,
Yep.
like, picking one committee you're on, like, I get the agenda, but I don't see all the stuff from
All right, so
consultants.
do we have any, have you got enough, Lois, or would
I
you
do.
like to have?
No, I do, and I think the next thing for us to do is to take the construct and go department by department and understand where things are and what is available and what's not. In other words, planning and zoning, park and rec, and understand who has what and what
Right.
format and things like that.
To go, well, do you want to spend a minute talking about going forward? I mean, obviously, we're looking into budget season. Is that something that I can put in my budget, that you would like a search engine feature for minutes and
Should I-
agendas?
should I
Okay,
talk now?
Jack,
Yes.
all right, so, go ahead, Jack.
All right, so, during the Board of Ed meeting
Saturday.
Oh,
Saturday,
the other day, yeah.
I happened to catch Jeff Adams before he was going to speak, so the two of us were just chatting.
He's the IT director.
Right.
I'm sorry, yes, he's the IT director. I don't give names, and I usually rely on Krista to tell people who they are.
But it helps to know.
Yes, it does, I appreciate it. So, so we were just chatting, and what I was really looking to do is see where the stuff is, so we can figure out if we can manually edit, other things like that. And Jeff happened to inform me that they're redoing the Board of Ed website, and there's a government docs system that he has put into his budget that will be able to take everything from the past to new, and it's a system outside that they can maintain and even have more information in there than they previously had. Now, I didn't have a long write-up. This is Jeff and I having a quick chat, and I was hoping that he did some more discussion over at the Board of Ed meeting. But I asked him to speak to Jen and John, and I called Jen earlier today to let her know, even though she's in the middle of budget as well. So there are some questions. I don't know, because we're the town, whether or not we also would need our own license, and I'm not sure what the cost is, or whether or not we can do it. But I happened to mention to Jeff that, you know, providing they approve it, which is what he was saying, providing they approve that new software, can he call John and Jen? Because if it costs, I'm gonna make a number, if it costs $10,000 with shared services, you know, even though it's still gonna cost $10,000 to the town, it's 5 and 5. So, you know, let's do it. Prior to today's meeting starting, I happened to mention it to John Zabrowski, that they're doing it. So I think it's just something that be nice that we circle back around. They're not doing it until 26, but, you know, it's next year's budget.
Yeah.
But there are some things that, you know, if upstairs that John's talking about on technology that are really exciting. So this would fall into that category of things that he would like. But it would allow us to keep a lot more docs there. And not only that, it's all searchable.
Because that's really
That's
what
a
we're
key
looking
point.
for.
That's the key, otherwise.
Yeah, right.
It's searchable.
It's searchable.
Yeah.
So I don't have to call up, which is still amazing that in 2 hours you guys were able to find it, but to call up Krista and say, I'm looking for the minutes of this to see what a resolution was. I think it was about this time. You were still on the Board of Ed, you know.
Right, we're kind of
Yeah,
rule
right
it
there,
down,
so
yeah.
we could narrow it down to what it was. And within an hour, I had a copy of the minutes and the resolution. So, now, I don't know that the search is going to be that quick, but, I mean, that was really amazing how quickly.
So along
The
those
town clerk
lines,
was able
I
to do it.
substituted for Seth at the OPC meeting, and I mentioned that the Rules Technology Committee was going to be looking at, you know, information and access and things like that. based on that, the head of the Park and Rec Commission said that they were looking for stuff and were very frustrated that they couldn't find it. So the issue was raised at a higher level than just the RTM, that it is an issue of access to information. So I'm hoping that there's a lot of forces that are coming together from many different angles and that we can, move it rather than just us asking for something, so. fingers
I
crossed.
can say from my own perspective, I mean, Lois and I had some side conversations because I didn't know if I'd be here for this. I like having the agenda separate because I can quickly go through, at least on the RTM, even the Board of Finance, they meet not more than 12 times or something. So I can quickly go through the agenda to see what's there. But as Krista said, that packet is key because that has the detail which we're all looking for.
Which you
So-
didn't have 5 years ago.
Right.
So I think it's an issue whose time is prevalent in a lot of different ways in town. And so the purpose, this is the first discussion to just bring us all aboard. Any ideas, let me know. We will be pursuing some of the things that don't sound like they make sense, but anyway.
Okay.
That's what we're doing, okay?
Oh, just that? Oh, all right. I was gonna think
Well,
something
we're
else.
still doing other stuff.
Oh, okay.
That's all I'm reporting on.
You
Well,
can take
with-
over the scope also if you want to.
No, thanks.
With that in mind,
I'm wearing another hat.
move on, yes, to hat two, report on the results from the RTM exit survey.
Okay, give me a minute. I just
Changing
need to.
seats for a committee.
It's gonna take, I need a second to move it up.
Recognize communications important.
Happy New Year, everybody.
So what I'm trying to do,
Did you get 100% response?
Oh, those guys did pretty well with the response, though.
50% is a very strong response.
No, but
Statistically
and with reach outs.
significant.
So Mark, did you have Detroit? In your fantasy football league?
No.
Or did you play Josh Allen?
No.
Who's your prediction for Super Bowl? As we're killing time here.
Yes.
The Jets and the Giants.
I hate to say it.
Oh, Adele, I'm sorry for mentioning
Sure, the
that.
Bills in Detroit.
Yeah, I
My
can't
orange
wait
ones
to
are
see the
Virginia,
Bills.
too.
I'd like to see Detroit.
Yeah.
PowerPoint.
So is this
Oh,
posted
man.
aren't you
Wow.
impressed?
This
this
is
posted
very
somewhere that we
impressive.
No,
No,
we're just,
we just finished it this afternoon.
Okay.
We will,
well,
we'll
no,
send you an answer,
no.
okay?
It wasn't just finished. We had some feedback and then it was worked on. So we will share it with you afterwards. But we just wanted to present it first. Okay? We good to go?
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
thanks.
Oh, good, it's working, okay.
Thanks. We just wanted to make sure this whole system works, Susan, that's why we said. So this was the can you go back for a second? Can you go, the RTM exit poll that we're presenting today, just to give you some background, we surveyed RTM reps who left in the last 2 years to find out why they left, how they felt about their time on the RTM and their committee work, and if there's any suggestions on ways to improve the RTM member experience, which will ultimately benefit our Darien residents. The survey launched on December 12th and was open for 2 weeks. This is what we learned from our respondents. Thank you. So a total of 25 members left the RTM in 2024. I know you heard us say 24, but somebody from District 1 had moved on to the Board of Finance right kind of as the election was occurring. So it ended up being 25 members left the RTM in 2024. 13 members left in 2023. 19 members responded to the survey, which is a 50% response rate. And as Mike, who is a fairly good expert in response rates from a lot of the surveys he does for the Darien Men's League, what do you call it?
Association.
Association. we were happy with this, particularly because of the time when we were launching it, which is right then in December. We bumped it back a bit because Great Island was doing their survey, and then they kept extending it, and they kept extending it. We didn't want to kind of cross over, because their survey took 25 minutes to fill out if you did it at length. This was, the goal of that was to be quick. So as you can see, about, of the people who responded, a little over 25% were on for 0 to 2 years. A little over 20% were on for 3 to 4 years. A little over 15% were on for 5 to 6, a little over 5% from 7 to 8, and then back up to over 15% for 9 to 10, and the same for 10 plus years. So, we're kind of seeing a balance of people are either on it for quick, shorter feedback, and they've changed because their life, and we'll go through this, they had a life change, or, a job change, etc., or they were not happy with being on the RTM, or people were on for a very long time and then have now decided to either move on to another thing, or just changes in their plans. All right, next, thank you. So reason for joining the RTM. 73% said, I wanted to serve my town. So remember, these were the questions, so they would just click on it. 73% said, I wanted to serve the town. So I think that's terrific. It's a very positive thing about the RTM.
Do people specify what the other
I'm
ones?
going to take you through that.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you for asking. 10%.
She didn't basically ask that.
10% had a specific issue. For example, we can talk about that later, but like a sidewalk or a pool, right? It's whatever their agenda was. Remember, years ago, it was the plastic bag ban, right? It was, right, so. And then 15% fell under others. So 73%, that's really impressive. They want to do good and get more involved for our town. So, for example, some of the other reasons were they were curious as to how the town worked. They wanted to learn how to affect change in town. So one issue was on sidewalks, and then the person said ultimately they felt that the RTM doesn't affect that much change, and so that's one of the reasons they left. Another person said zoning regulations that expanded max density, height, and also, this person said that they knew residents were not aware of the new overlay zones that were being passed. So it was a very specific
Wouldn't
item.
all of those, clearly they tagged them as other, so I understand why you organize it that way, but aren't those all really, at least the last three, the second A, the third A, and the fourth A, aren't those all really single issue?
Yes.
Doesn't that really fall into that category
Yes.
instead of other?
Yeah, I don't, well.
Yes.
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 But they gave feedback on it. There was a drop-in
Yeah.
section for
Yeah.
some of these questions. It allowed you to
Right,
ask
but they chose
specific.
other, but the definition of other was in fact,
That's just how they did
but
it.
no, I'm just asking, is that what happened?
So you can lump those together and say, actually, it wasn't just 10%, it was probably,
Right, that
Yeah.
10% is really
It's more like
10% and 3/4 of that 15%.
It was 35%.
But what you're,
25%.
but what's going on here is, I
Probably,
think these people didn't understand what they were involved with.
We're gonna get to that. We're gonna get there.
okay, we're the jump ahead group, Patty, so you have to go faster.
I
I'm sorry,
love that.
Ted.
So the thing is.
I wanted to give more examples, but I was encouraged to just, be Vanna White and rip through
Well,
the
let me, can you
numbers.
just go back, you bring up a good point,
Yeah.
because I was interpreting this as all of the reasons. Are you saying there were others, you just didn't show them? Which is
There were
fine.
very
No.
few.
There were just a few
Okay,
examples,
that's
like
fine.
location of a pool near Middlesex.
But again, still one on, I guess I was trying to distinguish between, forget how they tagged them as either other or single issue. I was just trying to figure out approximately how many were truly single issue.
It was
And
truly
it sounds like of that collective 26% was probably 20% of that 26% were.
We didn't see any dupes in that stuff. We didn't
Yeah.
see any duplications in those things.
But I think what Michael is saying is that if you go a little bit deeper to what they defined as other, then.
It's really one
That's
specific
really,
issue.
I had a specific issue. And what we don't know, quite honestly, is that I want to serve my town, but we don't know if I want to serve my town
For one specific
is-
issue.
What-
Get my son
Get a
watching.
Why am I serving the town? I mean,
Yeah.
Parents.
No, but we can only go by what they reported. I was just trying to understand.
So-
Let's let her go through it, guys.
But it does say the two big issues are then really, I want to serve my town, or as it had been in the past.
Or a specific issue.
A specific issue.
Right, I want to support the schools.
Anyway, it was a surprise that 73%.
No, you'd expect them to say that.
Yeah,
I didn't
that's,
expect
that's
to
not a
see.
surprise at all.
Well,
Usually
that's what
not.
I hoped for, but I was surprised, because anyone else. All of us have come to our own conclusions on that. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so now you're going to why did you leave the RTM? So again, questions allowed for multiple responses to click on. So 8 responses where my time commitment changed. 6 where I did not feel like I was making a difference, and we're gonna kind of address that on the last slide. It was time to move on, was 4. I moved to another town board, 4, and other. And I just want to talk about I moved to another town board. I think that's wonderful, right? Like, we
Yeah.
had somebody on Parks and Rec, we had at least 2, maybe 3, that moved from RTM Parks and Rec onto the commission. That is a wonderful thing. I feel like we're doing our job, right? Jack, you're the master of really training these great people on the, I'm sorry they've left you, but they're gonna add, they will add great value. Our 2 ladies who have moved on from District 1 and 2 onto the
But
Board
the
of Finance.
fact of the matter is, if you
Yes.
look at the Board of Finance, and they even include Jim,
They all came.
Oh, so
everybody
many.
with the exception of Paul came
Yeah,
from
Dave
the
Martin,
and-
Dan.
Right?
But,
And
and then also, what I found out is
With this
JC
one,
was
so-
on the
No, I-
yeah, I don't think Dan
RTM
was,
for
yeah.
a couple of days
But
also.
Dan wasn't.
No, we said.
Right, Dan wasn't, right.
He's
So
not
Dan,
listening, I just said, yeah, but that's because.
But Paul was on the Board of Selectmen and the
And
Board
the
of Ed.
Right.
Board of Ed, right.
Anyway,
So, the RTM does feed people, P and Z has a lot with.
we're doing
senior.
our job, I feel. We're doing our job if we see I moved on to another town board versus I'm out of here.
Penny,
Well,
was
we're
there-
really doing our job if people really want to make policy and they come onto the Board of Ed, if they come onto the
And learn how
RTM.
to do it.
And then you say to them, if you truly want to make a lot of policy, you must go
Right.
to either the Board of Ed, the Board of
Yes.
Selectmen, the Board of, that's where most, not all, but most of the policy making in this town is done on one of the 4 major boards.
Agreed.
Right.
And I think if you talk to probably the chairs of those 4 major boards, they will often say it's been very helpful to have people come from the RTM, right? Because they're already trained on the budgets and they're already, so.
Patty, did we ask a question? I don't remember. I thought we did, but I'm not seeing it here. Did we ask a question about how many may have left because of the change in the time of the meeting?
We did, it was 0.
Okay, good. I would expect that, but I was just curious.
No,
Thank
but
you.
that's a great
Good.
question. What we did here was kind of highlighted the top
No, that's great.
numbers.
I'm
Yeah.
glad to hear that.
So why did I leave, so we went through the why did I leave the RTM. For others, I'll just give you a few examples. One person was, I forgot to fill in the paperwork to re-up. So that was one of the
Yeah, that
questions.
was, I got that.
Remember? Now,
Oops.
okay, so you know who it is.
I do.
But we made this anonymous, so we don't know who
We don't know who
responded.
responded.
But that's a person who responded later on onto a question, would you come back onto the RTM? Would you be interested? That person said yes. So let's hope they're in District
3.
3.
Or 5.
But they're not.
Or wherever,
No, we know
we'll queue
why
them
the
up for the
people
next
left in
time.
District
Okay,
3.
so, forgot to fill in the paperwork was one example to re-up. And then, I'll just say, we'll say at the end some of the things we're gonna suggest, but that's an example where, you and I'm always in your office right before that deadline time, checking in to see, and it's helpful, and that's why we were able to be filled and that. So I would recommend to district chairs to really be communicating with Krista and their own people, and reminding them, hey, you might be in Nantucket in the last week of August, but the deadline, all you have to do is send an email to her saying, yes, I want to re-up, or whatever the date is, as an example. If not, and you've missed it, you can get those 25 signatures, and then you have to come in and fill out that, so.
Can
I just finish, Jack?
Sure.
Let me finish these other 2 points, please, if you don't mind. Thank you. Another example was somebody who wanted more camaraderie. And a third example was the person left because they had medical issues. Later on, the comments were, but I really would look forward to coming back if all, basically if all goes well. So that's a great thing. Yes.
So this is something, because we've talked about it, and I actually have had on occasion 1 or 2 people not fill out their paperwork, but then their district got full, so there. Can we bring the paperwork to our last meeting in June and say, can we fill it out? And, this isn't like take it home and we'll let your dog eat your homework.
Yeah.
This is like, look, if you're doing it, here's some station, fill it out, done, bye, see you in,
What do you
September.
think? I mean,
Jack, I was having the exact same thought,
Yeah.
I'm glad you said that. I don't know,
Yeah.
how early can people notify you? Is there, I don't know, by,
Yes.
sometimes there's a
You
window.
can take
That's
it and
good.
hold it. It's a signature date, right?
The only
Because that's
thing,
what happened with Jean Hugh.
They don't have to
She
fill it
came
out, but
a
make it
day
easy.
early.
No, well,
Forget it.
you're, okay.
Or that was separate because
Oh,
that was
they're different
separate.
things.
I'm sorry, wait, I'm just gonna clarify, that's separate because she was new and getting her
Right,
signatures.
Jack is talking about
Yes.
those
No,
people
I
who want to
understand.
re-up.
Yeah,
I understand.
right, so,
Yeah.
so it doesn't matter when they're signing it,
I believe I will defer to TGSNA as to what the appendix says
but
as
yeah.
far as the window of time. Because there is
That's the best
a
bet.
window.
Frank, aren't you happy you're going on vacation tomorrow?
Okay, well, okay,
4 AM.
may I
Anyway,
just make a,
So we'll follow up and find
it's a
out.
good
Right,
idea.
yeah.
No,
Okay.
well, just as a, throwing out that idea, as you're going through this process and analyzing the results, that is a worthwhile, in my opinion, as I do this now for 3 years, it is a worthwhile exercise for you guys perhaps to assign TGSNA to look at the appendix to see if those windows of re-upping, of petitioning, make sense for your population.
So it's
Krista,
within our
what would you
charter.
like the window, you were
No,
already
we-
going to ask
we
the
don't have
question,
to
what would you
discuss
like the
it.
window
Let's
to be?
I am not even gonna opine on that.
Right.
It is your
I'm just
guys'
asking
job to
opinion.
say, is it appropriate? If
Frank,
it is or not.
I agree with what Krista said. It's the same thing that I said to the Board of Ed. The Board of Finance and the RTM can decide how much money you get. The Board of Ed is responsible for determining how they spend it.
Yeah, I'm just throwing it out,
Yeah,
that,
I
you
agree
have
with you.
control over this process,
Well,
this is
that's
in your
good to
appendix
know.
B.
That's really good to know.
Yeah,
'cause
so,
But at
if it
least for
doesn't
the
work, if you think
re-up,
August, whatever is a bad time, switch
An
it.
innocent question, is the assumption that it's too late, because if right now it's end of August, isn't it?
It's terrible.
It
My
Well, that's what I was
opinion.
asking.
My
The meeting in June.
Yeah, if we do
Yeah,
it.
Should be earlier, right?
The reason is that,
Okay.
in August, this is a ghost town.
Yep.
And, it's like, I don't even worry about making reservations. I can walk into the restaurants if I'm here. So, and people are away, so if
let's
we
let's
do it
follow
in
up.
June,
Let's put it
we
down.
can get people, and sometimes people just, I have kids, I have this,
Yes,
I'm doing this,
I
and
agree.
everything like that.
All right.
I
It's
think it's
more
a
than
worthwhile
that.
discussion.
Yeah.
Can we focus on the
Our
report
kids-
and
So
not
can I
solving
make one
documents?
point about the survey?
Yeah, can we not,
Yeah, have you finished?
No.
No.
no,
Can we finish your?
Yeah, let's
let's
can we
resolve the
go-
problems later.
Can we hold the rest of
Well,
the
wait, Susie,
discussion and
just-
get through the rest of this
Go
and
ahead,
then
Susan. What's your comments?
do it, because we're
So
going page by page.
piggybacking on that.
Yeah.
Maybe at the last meeting, either September or October, for the people that are not returning, we can give them this survey. I mean, I don't know if we're gonna do this all the time, but get the people
That's the goal.
before they leave the RTM to do the survey.
Well, now that we have this set up, we can be doing the survey, we can do it, the day before, like the week
Okay,
before
I'm just
election
saying,
day.
like, piggybacking on that
Right,
idea of
right,
re-upping, let's
Right,
also.
100%, the goal is to do this. This is an exit survey, right? You work for,
Yeah.
Blackstone, you're doing an exit survey. GE, okay.
Okay.
So, On to the next one. What committees did you serve on? So this is a question that allowed for multiple responses. So of the people who responded to the survey, 2 people responded that they worked on Public Works. 2 had responded that they worked on Parks and Rec. 3 had responded Public Health and Safety. 4 PZ&H. 4 TGS&A. 5 Finance and Budget. And 8 Education. And I think that what is an interesting takeaway from that is not so much, oh wow, 8 people left from education, right? Some of these people, as we saw that earlier chart, had been on for 10 plus years, right? Or 9 or 10. And then some were only for 1 or 2. So what our takeaway was that education happens to be a committee that either people don't start on and then want to go on. Like, remember back in the day when everybody, like, committees switch. Sometimes, I mean, remember when people didn't want to be on Public Works and now everybody wants to be on Public Works,
I do
right?
not recall that.
Or education, there you go. Or when education was really hard to get onto, right, or F&P. So what we're seeing is
They're one issue.
correct. And so we're going to address that on the last slide. So I just want to say that.
Well, I just want to add one thing
Sure,
that
go
I
ahead.
haven't done earlier, is we also, for people that didn't respond, we took the whole group and looked at how long they had served. We don't know who responded and who didn't, but it turns out that the whole, looking at the picture of everybody who left, the breakout in number of years was similar. So I thought that was really interesting. We didn't lose, you know.
How many years?
Yeah, so the
Yes.
0 to 4 group is a similar number as the percentage of 0 to 4 and 5 on is similar. So that, to me, adds further validity to the kinds of things we're looking at.
But, you know, quite honestly, and I don't mean to sound offensive, but on F&B, I know all except one person who's on for 1 year and left. And in fact, Frank and I were talking about the individual. I know why everybody left
That's fine.
F&B.
Sure,
I
we
mean,
know why everybody left District 1. That's
Yeah,
good, that
yeah.
means you're a good chair.
Yeah, no, it's
you
fine.
know,
Yep,
You know,
you're
And
involved.
not counting
Yeah.
the 2 of them went to
Were
the
promoted.
Board of Finance and the dog side.
Okay.
Lateral, not a.
I don't know, policy making. How did you?
Possibly.
How did you find your committee work? 58% said it was interesting, and again, these were the click on things. 43% clicked on, I found it frustrating that my committee did not have more authority to make a difference. 26% said I felt we served our mandate, and 26% said I enjoyed the camaraderie. And this also allowed for multiple responses as well. So, you know, usually if they were happy, they also enjoyed the camaraderie. And then one person in a comment said, it was, I'm gonna say this because I thought this was like spot on. It was hit or miss depending on the committee or the year. That kind of can sum it up sometimes for people. All right, next, please. Did you feel your RTM experience made you better informed as a citizen? 90% felt that they were kept well informed by town projects and initiatives, by RTM meetings, and their committee assignments.
That's
So,
amazing
That's a great
statistic.
number,
Yeah.
like, and I think that's, you know, they wanted to serve town, so even if they've left, their takeaway is they really understand how town
I would even go
works.
beyond that, but if you compare that to the prior slide, that felt, well, can you just quickly click back, Lois?
Yeah.
If 43% found it frustrating, yet 90%, which means some of that 43,
Didn't like what they
piece of
learned.
it,
Oh, yeah.
actually thought,
Didn't mean they agreed with it, they just heard it.
Yeah.
actually felt well informed though, which
Yeah.
I think is really good.
100%, and you're right.
Patty, not to
Yes, sir.
nitpick, but the percentages don't add to 100.
Because you
Because
can
you
jump
can
multiple
multiple.
Are
responses.
you allowed?
It says
Right, right
questions
there. They're on
allowed
the
for
screen, Seth.
multiple responses.
Oh, okay.
Yes, so, and we did that for, there's several of them that
Good
made
point,
sense to
though,
do that. But
Actually, it's
Thank
not,
you.
but that's
It's
okay.
small pretty sitting
Thank
over
you.
there and
It's
doesn't have
sitting
her
over
glasses on.
Just wanted to let her know I was still
This is
awake.
the one.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, we were up first, but the selectmen,
We were.
no. in the future, would you rejoin the RTM? So again, I think this is a tremendous number. 68% said yes. So even though we were seeing some of these numbers where people were saying,
Yeah.
hey, they were really frustrated, they might have been frustrated and then they are suddenly now commuting from all the way down on Wall Street, which was an example of somebody in our district from 2 years ago. You know, like if he hadn't switched all the way down there, he might still be on and still be working to work harder to figure out ways to add even more value, so to speak.
And may I just add, because of some people that I know in our district, they all of a sudden, because of the age of their kids, are running a taxi service.
Oh, 100%, that's obvious.
And, yeah, and
Yes.
so when the
Yes.
kids grew up, I mean, that's when I joined, is when my kids got older.
Yes,
I wasn't running to sports and everything else like that anymore.
yes. And I think, I mean, Susan's a perfect example. People who have been on the RTM, right, go on to serve on other boards and then come back, right? And so, Adele, Board of Ed, right? So, again, that's the whole, we're doing a good job if you want to
Well,
come
but there
back
are at least
versus
15 people in the
running.
RTM that are former board members.
Yeah, there's
so-
a lot.
There's a lot of Board of Ed.
Oh, yeah.
Board
A lot of
Board
Board of Ed.
Yeah.
Which makes
Jan.
us a more informed
Everybody.
RTM
Yeah.
body, I believe. All right, so next, please. So the results of the survey.
This is the last slide.
Yes, the overall survey results were positive. Suggestions for improving RTM experience. Number one, enhanced onboarding and orientation. So recommendation to create a dedicated orientation meeting for new members. Second thing, provide clearer communication about the RTM's role and how members can affect change in town. That's important because that was a lot of the
Well, they can't.
more detailed comments that we got out of that, right? So, you know, I will just give the example that Patrick Keene in our District 1, when we had the new people that were coming in, said, he said, I want to tell you an example, for education, for example, right? You're not going to be changing curriculum, right? But you could, you know, if homes, you can support HHR, right? An example, what somebody actually wrote in is, like, I need clarity, can I be talking about and pushing for a later start time for the high school? That's a great question, that's great feedback. Right? So those are the types of things. What can you do? And the takeaway is on some committees, I feel like we've said this before, our Parks and Rec committee has worked hand in hand with the Parks and Rec Commission. They invite us on their park survey. They let us take the surveys. That helps them to prioritize capital budget items and things like that. And so, but we're seeing a lot of frustration out of folks that have been on education, I would say. And then we're seeing comments and frustration on P&Z. We had several comments on frustration from P&Z, and that could be just because there's all this different stuff going on, and there's not enough kind of reporting on that.
I think
So-
part of what we saw though is we need to have some clarity and some upfront discussions so people's expectations are realistic.
Yes.
And they can do, and I think that's
That's
really.
Exactly.
But, you know,
And so, wait, can we just go
But
to the
Jack,
next
you have
Okay.
some, different committees
Yeah.
have different approaches to it, and maybe
Yeah.
we need to.
well, that's why I don't like the comment that the RTM doesn't establish policy, because I can talk about policies that now
Fire
exist in this town.
Jack, I said
Because of
we
that.
don't make there's certain areas that we
Right.
make
Yeah.
policy. I
Right,
didn't
but
say we don't make any
No, I didn't, I wasn't attacking
Okay,
you.
okay,
I was
just wanna
just
make
saying. No,
I know, this is a
I'm
pet
talking
peeve of
about
Jack and I.
you, because Michael had also said that.
Yeah.
All right,
So,
Jack, can we just finish this, because I
Sure.
really would like to do that.
I'm in favor of that.
So again, create a dedicated, thanks Ralph, and create a dedicated orientation meeting for new members. I think that alone, and two different people were really specific about what they'd like
I
to
think
see
that's
on
great.
that. That's really easy. When I moved here 25 years ago, a woman came to the door and said, hi, I am the welcome wagon. Here is everything that you need to know. I mean, this is simple, right, for us to do, to make it more welcoming, more informative, and so, anyways, this is a really positive thing, and I'm excited about it. with all of your feedback. The third thing is develop a comprehensive orientation packet that outlines RTM procedures and expectations. We know that they get this in the mail, but what we're recommending is that this is given out prior at the orientation packet. So they're already really starting to understand what the committees are. Because sometimes they're coming in and they're just signing up for whatever the 3 committees are and they don't even know, right? And so obviously that's not usurping the FOIA and everything else that's going to happen that will be discussed. But we feel that a orientation meeting would be very helpful, and those are some of the things that we want to cover. The other thing is member support and engagement. Provide regular updates to the RTM on committee work, various committees. So for example, people were saying like, what, again, PZNH was, they were requesting, several people who were on PZNH who came off said, they gave some very specific comments about they feel like everyone on PZNH should read and understand the
These are individual comments. so-
individual comments, the plan of conservation and development should understand the zoning laws, things like that. I get that, right? But that's that person's that's 1 or 2 people's comments. Anyways, the point being, multiple people said, you know, they enjoyed and they learned things, but they would have liked to hear more about what's going on. We learned a lot about what was going on at Great Island from Public Works, right? But there's so much development in town on PZNH that there was feedback of, we would like to have updates on that, even though we're not voting. That, you know, it's not a voting
It's not
item.
an action item.
It's, right, correct. And so, and then another suggestion is organization, so just do more, right? So
Like HHR.
100%, perfect example, right? Updates on that, thank you, Adele. And then organize gatherings or network events to help colleagues build relationships. So Mike Wheeler, for example, his district is having a
Yeah, we're gonna
Caucus.
a caucus before the February meeting, just to
just
talk
to have
about
everybody,
what our committees are doing
yeah, just to keep
for
them
an
up to
hour before the
date.
meeting.
Frank Huck does the barbecue. I might move into District 4 just to get invited to that someday.
Frank Kemp.
Frank Kemp, I'm sorry, I'm gonna say Huck for the rest of my life. because he-
D4 TGSNA.
Yes,
Annual thing.
and then our District
Really?
1, so these are,
Yeah,
Join the committee.
we don't get invited, right?
No wonder he doesn't want to put more people on. The truth's coming out
there
now.
you go, the barbecue. And then District 1, Priscilla Wong hosted a, just a little, the end of the season after everything ended, after May. So everybody just got to know each other a little bit more, because we had 2 new people on there then. So just a little bit more
That's why I did the
bonding.
name tags.
Pardon?
Yep.
That's why I did the name
Name tags,
tags.
and they're a big help because you can hear them.
Excellent.
They definitely
Thank you.
help.
That was,
So the action item out of all of this is we are recommending, with your feedback, to do a new member orientation on November 10th. That November 10th meeting is that little short meeting where it kind of makes people crazy that they have to come, especially the new people, they're like, what do you mean I gotta come for this short meeting and then I gotta come back on the 24th for another pretty short meeting? And so this is a way that we can provide, you know, a lot more information to them in a positive, welcoming sense. And so we're open to suggestions. We could do it and have them come an hour early before the RTM meeting and just have that group come, and we could have people from rules and district chairs and committee chairs be there, so it's kind of a, hey, get to know you thing as you're starting. Or we can just do it as part of the regular meeting. But these are our suggestions, and we look forward to your
All
feedback.
right, so
Thank you.
what I'll do,
Thank you to my
now that
teammates. My
we have a
girls.
whole bunch of thoughts on the table, I'll put this on the agenda of the next Rules Committee meeting as an item to try and come to a conclusion and agree to take action.
I think it's great.
Are you gonna present this before the whole body?
Barbecue Man has a question.
We can talk about
Yeah,
that
oh,
at the next
excuse me, the
meeting.
barbecue man would like to speak. Frank?
Seth, with your permission, I'd like to request someone to make request a resolution that TGSNA draft language that will adjust the timeline for members to declare that they will stand for re-election, and that this recommendation be presented at the next meeting of rules, with work on Appendix B have priority at this time.
I would make that motion.
Will you make that motion?
Is this, wait, is this under new business though? I'm not sure.
Only if I
what
get
this
my
is.
vote.
Okay. But
I would say that since the agenda got expanded to discussion of that would be acceptable.
Great.
Did you take comments
Who made that
before
motion?
you have a vote?
Yes, I would take comments.
I think before you say that you're going to adjust it, we find out what it is and whether or not it needs to be adjusted. Now, I'm not saying it does or it doesn't, but until I know what it is, the fact is that the adjustment may not be where the deadline is. The adjustment may be the front part of it, that, oh, we can't sign up until June or July or something like that.
No, actually, there's,
So, yeah.
I can just clarify, there's no front end, there is a back end. But I was just, to morph that a little bit, picking up on what you're saying, is
Yeah.
that I would recommend that it be assigned to TGSNA to
Yes.
look at Appendix B
Right.
Yes.
for the process by which RTM members both renew and petition on, because those are the two windows, the vehicles
Right.
that are most commonly used. And to say, are those two, does TGSNA recommend that they stay the same? Does TGSNA recommend that they be modified? And then a resolution is created.
I would agree. I'll second
What
that.
I think this will play out, rather than making a recommendation, which then has to go out as a fall, I think what we will do, come back with some options, and we can discuss those options at rules
Right.
before anything else happens.
Yeah, I think that's what we want.
And
But
So I
also,
think
but I think-
your objectives will be met.
Frank,
Just because the resolution I heard didn't address the petition. And I wouldn't
think
want
we
that
ought
to be,
add that. That's fine.
So,
I also have a
I'm gonna
question.
make, pardon me, I just want to make one quick question from Appendix B. You do not need the authority of the Rules Committee to go and investigate that. You as a committee can take that on as yourself and come back to us.
Fine, I feel just as comfortable as staying
He's
to the
asked for a
committee. The
resolution,
rules has
I don't know.
requested us to look at such and
Yeah.
such. You don't always have to do that, but it's just more comfort level.
And Mr. Clerk of the Rules Committee, do you have that resolution?
It's coming together over here.
When you get
flexible.
it,
I'll read it back as soon as
when
I
you
get
get
it.
it together, would you read it back? Thanks.
so I have a back question on that, is are there rules in the state that we have to follow? So it's not, I'm surprised.
I think Krista said
I am
no on the front
not
end, only
Okay, I
aware
didn't hear
of
that.
that.
No,
I
they
am
don't
not
care
aware of
for
that,
most
but when this thing gets a little momentum, town council will be able to tell us.
But there are some things that one has to be cognizant of, and maybe, Krista, if you're going to be on the ballot, there's some cutoff dates for that.
yes, right.
So that's what I
So-
mean.
Yeah, no,
So-
absolutely.
So from that perspective, if you're going to be just doing the re-upping, that's one date, and that's why Chris is saying that. The petition is, you probably have missed the cutoff date to be on the ballot.
There is
Well,
a,
one of the things that, yeah.
I'm happy to be part of that
Yeah,
discussion
yeah.
when TGSNA wanted to take it on, but there are realistic timeframes for the publication of the ballot that
Yeah.
the window cannot go
Yeah.
until nth, degree, but the 8 to 12 weeks, there is some wiggle room there.
So
Yeah,
this is
but
gonna be an
usually-
ease of use discussion. If it's not a big deal and we investigate it, that at our last meeting of the year, May or June, we hand out the paperwork, people can sign it and hand it to you. And then if somebody's on the bubble and they're not sure they wanna do it, then they don't have to turn it in, but an email will go out from their district rep, or from you, or from Rules, or whomever, reminding them that they have to do it by whatever deadline we end up deciding for the fall.
But
Yeah,
Krista
for
already
August.
does that. I mean,
Yeah,
she already does that.
I know she does, but
I mean, I'm not
the reason it works, I feel like the reason it works in District 1 is because we had a very involved chair, and our rules people are involved, and so we were full on election days, which I'm
And the
proud
reason
of.
why we
So,
have is that we
yes.
had several people go to other boards. We had people move out of town, and we had people who have kids that they became taxes of. I know
Okay.
exactly why people left in.
Yeah, no, we're just saying there's no downside in
Okay,
over communicating.
I'm looking to my left and I
So let
see
me
a
get some-
sparkle in the clerk's eye.
Let me see if we got this.
We may have it.
Mr. Casola made a motion requesting that the TGSNA review and propose language as necessary to adjust the timeline for members to declare willingness to stand for re-election to be presented at, I said, a future Rules Committee meeting, as opposed to the next.
Yeah, I agree with that change.
We'll shoot for the next one,
Just
but
put-
that's fine, I like that.
What about the petitioning people?
Yeah, petitioning people too.
Give me a sentence about petitioning people.
And petitioning people.
Got it.
Or a phrase.
Would you like
After
to,
appendix B.
I invite the clerk to reread that as amended.
He's
Give
typing.
him a moment,
Commencement
give him a
is, there's
moment.
no front end according to
Okay, I'm gonna put sure that
the charter.
hangs.
Is the word petition in there?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
It just says at least 10 weeks before the
Yeah,
election.
petitioning.
So the front end, technically, you could tell me in March.
Right, that's what I'm saying, I think it's the front end of this process we'll look at, not the back.
Yeah, I think that the front, if we
One more
do the
time,
front
Seth.
end.
Please.
All right, here we go.
Just got
Yeah, the front end, there's no front end.
Listen up.
Made a motion requesting that the TGSNA review and propose language as necessary to adjust the timeline for members to declare willingness to stand for re-election to be presented to the Rules Committee. Oh, I got the, and petitioning people in the wrong spot. Where should that go? Re-election, how about and petitioning people to be presented at the,
I'm just changing people to members.
Okay,
I'll,
I don't know what that word, where are we using the
I'm
petitioning?
willing to listen to that again.
Yeah?
you want to hear how the charter, the town code states?
Well, that would have been helpful, yes.
I'm going to read the sentence from the town code that addresses your first group. A town meeting member may nominate themselves for re-election from the same district by giving written notice to such effect to the town clerk, at least 10 weeks, blah, blah, blah. So you want to say,
At least 10 weeks ahead of time, of election day, or of the deadline
But
day?
the early vote, you got the
The
election,
election
that's
day.
the other problem.
The early, that's a great point.
yeah, so do you
That was the
want
whole conversation we had
Yeah.
at the last rules
Right.
meeting, or 2 months ago.
Which is, to Jack, to your point, even more of a reason to try and have the paperwork given out
Exactly.
in May or
Right.
June, because of early ballot.
Because that pushes it into
Right.
July.
Yeah.
You know, quite honestly, we should be, you know, by April, people should be deciding if they're coming back.
I had the same reaction you did, Susan.
No, you,
I mean, so much can change in
April
someone's.
1st?
Well, you can
Oh,
amend it.
yeah, the
too.
No, but
Yeah.
for most,
No,
I mean, unless
it's
you
too
know
early.
things are going, that potentially have a job change or.
I mean,
That's what
people that join in November, new members,
Yeah.
well, they're not gonna be re-upping.
Right.
Oh, well, actually, if they
You
came
have
in,
to.
if they came in at a caucus, they would
Yeah.
have to go on there.
Can we
Anyway,
discuss this when we get to
Could-
No, this is what
Could
yeah,
I-
TGSNA should be hashing out.
Try one more time?
Yeah.
Let's try it one last
I'll,
time.
Read it one more
yeah.
time.
Every competency.
Could I have that motion again, please?
Yes, so, made a motion requesting that the TGSNA committee review and propose language as necessary
If
to
necessary.
adjust the timeline for petitioning members to notify willingness to stand for re-election. And this is to be presented to the Rules Committee.
Not just petitioning.
No,
No.
Any
it's both, it's 2 different things.
existing members. It's all, this is all about
It's all
giving
about
people who
existing
are
members.
on the, that are part of the body
Petitioning
now.
Right, that's
Petitioning
okay,
people,
just
yeah.
strike petitioning and
I
say,
didn't have petitioning.
Oh,
Yeah, just say,
It's 2 different things.
Can I,
have a motion for TGSNA to review the Appendix B,
Mark,
Section
can
A.
Mark, can I offer a solution? Can we do the resolution you have for petitioning,
In the front end?
and then take out petitioning
Yeah,
and put in for
it's both.
standing members, and do that as a second resolution, and you got both of them covered?
We don't need a resolution.
Petitioning is 8 to 12 weeks.
A lot of cooks in this kitchen.
Yeah, and it's not even.
TGSNA should
Well,
review
that's
the,
true, that's the glory of golf.
Introduction
Wow.
to standing is a good
Why don't you
idea.
just do it? We don't need.
Yeah, we don't need a resolution.
you don't need a resolution.
No.
for one day.
Frank, just bring it to your committee.
He started the resolution, he was trying to.
Essentially, that's what we're doing.
But you can see why the chair of TGSNA might have wanted a resolution.
I see where this is going.
Krista, thank you,
Yes, it just-
and hopefully not only does it make the RTMs, one less thing that the busy moms or the working, everybody who are on the committee or people who are working that, or for that person who clicked, it just got away and I didn't respond, and then they didn't want to do the 25, or didn't really understand they had got the 25.
No, that
My
individual
point
did
is,
understand.
thank you, and I hope the byproduct is this makes your life easier and not.
Doesn't change my life one
Well, if
iota.
everybody responds much earlier, I think hopefully it will. No?
Pardon me?
Still works.
If everybody responds earlier, you don't think it helps a little bit?
No.
I'm just throwing you bone here, sister.
I'm giving you an honest answer.
The reality is that.
Whether you guys start with 61 people or 100, I mean, yes, I'd like to see 100 people, I agree. I think you need to be clear as to what everyone's roles and responsibilities are, yes. I think every district is doing it a little bit different. I think there should be more continuity, yes. That's for you all to decide, but not for now, not for today. You just need to address this between now and June. But thank you.
All right, I will
You're welcome.
ask the motioner how you want to proceed.
You're the motioner.
No, you're the
That's Frank.
No.
Michael.
Michael
I
made
turned it
the motion.
over to be transcribed.
Oh.
Oh, let's not know.
Would you read that?
Well, we,
So do we
Let him
vote
get
on it?
it.
Or we're
I
done?
have the motion,
One more
unless the
time.
person wants to withdraw the motion, but otherwise, can I hear the
I'll make
motion
the
again?
motion.
I think it's cooked.
I'll move the motion, is that what you mean?
I had moved it, no, I had moved it.
Yes, but
Okay.
before, I want to make sure
Can we just
know
hear
what
it
the
one more
motion
time
is.
as it's been adjusted?
the head will.
That's Ralph's comment.
One more one,
This
please,
is
sir?
this is the hardest one we've had.
I
ever.
know.
A motion requesting that TGSNA review and propose language if necessary
I'm teasing. I'll have to come on.
to adjust the timeline for, this is where I'm stuck. For what?
Timeline for joining the RTM via
For
nomination
timeline for
or
standing.
Standing members. That's the material.
and new petitioning,
Timeline for standing.
and new petitioning members.
Declaring.
Done.
To declare their candidacy.
Yeah,
Has to
just
be
for new
for
petitioning
something.
members. They're gonna come back with something,
No, but
language.
it needs to have in there, the sentence
Okay.
doesn't end there,
So-
it has to go
Oh,
on.
he's
For
got it,
standing
he's got it.
members and petitioning members to notify willingness to stand for reelection,
No,
No,
no, election, not reelection, election.
to stand for election,
Yeah, that's good.
Election, yeah.
stand for election,
Yeah.
yeah.
To be presented to the Rules Committee in upcoming meeting. Upcoming-
All right, now, do I have a second?
That makes sense.
Thank you, Peter.
Peter's the second.
Further discussion? I don't hear any. All those in favor, please.
Aye.
Noes, please. I see none. Abstentions, I see none. The motion passes. Next item, deciding on whether or not we have a January 27 meeting. I have surveyed around through the Board of Selectmen, the Board of Finance. There is no pending business that we need to act on January 27. My suggestion is that we take a motion to cancel the meeting and we'll move on to February. Peter? Second from Michael. Discussion? All those in favor? Okay, opposed? I see none. Abstentions? I see none. The motion passes to cancel the January 27 RTM meeting.
There's a new warning on it.
Are there?
There's a new notice.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. Next, any other business?
There's something I do want to do that I found out upstairs in the Board of Selectmen.
Okay.
Unlike in the past where there was a full presentation by the town administrator on the Board of Selectmen budget, there's going to be a very high-level conversation at 8 o'clock at the meeting on, I believe it's the Tuesday after Martin Luther King's Day, So it'll be like a half an hour, very high level, and then we're gonna go into the department meetings. The budget review this year is only going to be done over 3 days. I think that most of the chairs have those days, but I'll send it out. But in the past, there was always this larger presentation that will not be happening this year. So just so that everybody's aware and not asking Channel 79 why they don't have it.
All right. Any other business? Yes, Krista,
sorry.
did you have
I
something?
just wanted to clarify, the part, back to the part 8, section 4, is that off? That's not being addressed?
We skipped
Because I
that.
get questions on that a lot.
Frank just noticed that we skipped that today.
No, I brought it up, but
It's not part of,
I heard that it wasn't ready to be.
no, it's not part of Appendix B, but it's
Right.
a separate issue to be assigned.
What is it?
Well, we did have it assigned to TGS&A. I was just looking for an update.
But to refresh my memory, that section describes how districts operate. What is the issue that we're trying to address that people find that this is not sufficient?
The question is, how do the districts meet? How do you call the meetings? And, are they meetings? Are they caucuses? What are they?
Yeah, we didn't, okay, I understand that now that that's the issue, but I don't think we agreed earlier that this was on the table.
All right.
We want to put it on the table now, fine.
I see it on
In other words,
the
we're not
agenda.
behind.
Call me crazy.
Let the record show that we're not behind in that situation.
Okay, all right, no, we're not inferring that, but it is on the agenda for tonight. So one thing that I can do is move it to the next agenda.
Well,
And
that's
then
fine, but
you can
before we move,
do that.
like, what are we trying to solve? How the districts conduct themselves?
Yeah.
Clarify, right?
Yes. I think how.
So we can clarify it by a memo, or we can comply it by putting it into law.
Your recommendation, that's what we're
Yeah.
asking you to look at.
Has there been any problems?
Yeah, people were asking questions, I think that's.
Yeah.
So therefore, what are the problems? I don't know.
About voting, whether you were if it was a caucus, could you vote? If you weren't there, did you have to have an affidavit to vote? Some things you could vote and some
They have
things
to
you
have
Tell you what,
minutes.
could we operate a little bit mechanically as that if people have issues that I'm not aware of, but you write a memo to our moderator, calling it to his attention, and then we'll act on it.
Well, I
But
think
I don't want to be in the position of going around surveying people. Do you have any changes to recommend?
I think Seth sent out a memo, didn't you?
Yeah.
To clarify some things. I guess the question is whether you want to put that into the original
Right.
document.
Is that-
I don't think I've seen
in
it.
writing what this issue is.
Seth has it.
Seth has it.
Well,
But so is the question of are the anomalies or the problems that allegedly happened need to be resolved by legislative action or a memo of understanding? This is the way things ought to operate. Under
But we want
Robert's rules.
clarity, that's
Okay.
what we're looking for.
it's,
Yeah, Robert's rules?
in the feedback I get from district chairs, when they have had vacancies, which everybody has had over the course over 3 years, in reading the town code, they find it very confusing as to the direction they're supposed to take and the timing by which they have to do this. The 10 days of the caucus, they find that confusing. So I think that your colleagues are asking for clarity in the town code as to how they proceed with meetings versus caucuses and the process by which they conduct these. Absentee
Could we
voting,
clarify that a
affidavits, or...
caucus is to be conducted by Robert's rules?
No,
Is that debatable?
Robert's rules isn't always the clearest thing.
I know, but Robert's rules
Yeah,
has
totally
a
not.
nice way of
No,
conducting a meeting. It is a meeting.
But it
But
may
the
not
question
be a
is,
meeting, because
Can
meeting has certain.
someone give, if they know someone's caucusing, but they're not gonna be there, can they give their votes to the chair? To be absent and
That
still
was
be
a
able to
key
vote?
question.
Does Robert's
That's-
rule address that question?
That's one of the questions of, one of the questions was, does an applicant have to have their camera open?
Have the what?
Does an applicant have to have their camera open to be interviewed?
Are there other questions that need to be resolved?
I'm sorry, let me go back to
The answer is no.
They don't have to,
They don't have to.
but
But
we
You don't have
might
to vote.
request it,
You don't have to vote tomorrow.
right? Yeah, we can request it if they say no.
The town code does
What if it's
address the timing by which districts must meet to fill vacancies. I find it very confusing. I've had other district chairs find it confusing, so that's,
I'll be glad to take it on. I just want to try to get a little grip on
yeah,
what it.
let me find the vacancy.
You've heard me say a couple times Robert's rules. That's another shield.
It's,
But,
But that doesn't.
what is the problem that defies the conduct of a meeting according to rules?
There are definitions that
I don't want to be
affect,
in a position of writing,
there are definitions that occur in Robert's rules that don't necessarily relate to how we define caucuses. And caucuses were defined differently and therefore had different implications. But you're right, in that we need to give you, where have we gotten stuck? What are the questions that have come up that we've had to go ask for things? And
send them to me or send them to Seth,
Yeah.
whatever.
no, that's fair.
No, and I will compile it.
Because we've got
I had sent one memo, as I recall, about it, but we'll do it with more precision and get it out to you, okay?
So Seth, if you could send all of us, since we're all talking about it, to just the
Yeah,
single.
no, and leave you guys out? Oh, no.
Just one.
well, I can give you, just one quick example. The caucus shall be convened not later than the next following meeting of the RTM. In my experience, that has not been the practice of this body.
Can you repeat that?
The caucus of the vacancy
Yes.
shall be convened not later than the next following meeting of the RTM.
That's clear.
Yeah.
It's clear, but it doesn't happen because you don't have people.
But the fact it doesn't happen, how do I change the
Thank
law
you.
to make that happen?
That's a matter of execution.
You
But then
can't have,
you
you
Should be
can't have a rule that you have to have a caucus if you're voting on no one.
Right, so therefore, the verbiage could be modified to say,
Not must.
when you
Why does that
have
time
one
frame matter?
person, maybe you need to have 3 people, maybe, I don't,
Yeah,
you
no,
guys can
fully.
decide,
Why does
you
the
know.
timing matter?
Why does
We'll
something
take
matter?
half of a person in 3, we'll take 6 halves and we're okay.
That was one example of verbiage in the
Yeah.
town code that is not, it's not realistic. It's, you can't have a meeting if you don't have people. That was
I
one
would even go
example.
beyond this. Why does there need to be a timeline?
Well, it was put there in
No,
1959.
I understand that. I understand that. I
I think
understand
they
why
don't
there
wanna
is
leave
one.
people
But
hanging.
now I'm asking why there needs to be.
Well, there needs to be, based on some stuff that's gone on in
So
Stanford.
what you're saying, Adele, is that if somebody comes forward within a period of time, a caucus should occur, so
Correct.
you're not having somebody hanging.
that-
Versus, I lost somebody today, and within 10 days, we gotta
Right.
find somebody
Right.
to
A
replace them.
warm body, yeah.
Yeah, right, thank you,
I
a
don't think
warm
that was-
body.
Don't think that was the intent.
Right, true.
Yeah, if the date's in there, it's gonna be tied to a condition, if
Right,
there are
right,
candidates.
Right.
That's a perfect phrase.
All right. I will get a memo out to you, Frank, with that included, and so that you have
Yes,
some
Part
guidance.
8 section.
Yeah,
that's it.
That's amendment to
And
the
Seth,
town
more
code.
clarification, reinforcement of clarification on, we're doing a caucus, somebody's not gonna be there. Some people have told us, yes, they can give us
You can
their
vote.
votes, other people
You're
have
not
told
there.
us
Yeah.
you
No.
can't.
You have to
So-
do it in, well, if it's in writing, I think that was what it was, that, yeah. you
Can they send the chair an email versus?
I don't want to be a stick in the mud here, but that's not a clarification, that's an amendment to the code. I mean, that's,
Oh, yeah, no, this is ultimate,
Yeah, yeah,
as
yeah.
I envision that this is an amendment to Part
gotcha,
8, Section
Section
4.
four,
Yeah,
yeah.
oh, absolutely.
1952, we're
Absolutely.
amending 1952.
outstanding.
Okay.
Sisters
All right.
and Jack.
As an informal,
Good.
Poor Frank.
That all being said, direction being figured out, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Oh, well, I see Patty very quick and Lois left her hand up, so she's second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Please rise.
Thank you, everybody, for the feedback.
Thank you.